Sometimes I get tired of preaching about the exile. I get tired of thinking about the exile. I get tired of the fact that the exile metaphors resonate with me. And I just prefer if they didn't. But I'm ahead of myself because we don't talk enough about the exile to assume that anybody knows what I mean when I talk about it. So a quick historical summary. After King David and King Solomon, the ancient nation of Israel split in two. The northern part kept the name Israel and the southern part had the name Judah. That was stable for a few hundred years, and then the northern nation was subsumed by Assyria in 722 BCE. The southern kingdom held on for a while longer, mostly by paying tributes to larger empires, but was itself destroyed in 586 BCE. At that point, the leaders, the literate, and the priests were force-marched to Babylon, while the poor, illiterate majority were left in the ruins of a destroyed Jerusalem without the protection of city gates. That's what we call the exile. In 539 BCE, 47 years later, the first of the people who'd been exiled were freed to come back. Meanwhile, the people who stayed had been decimated by famine, disease, attackers, and home was neither what people remembered nor what they had been told about. The reality of the exile is formative in the writing down of the Hebrew Bible and the questions that were being asked and answered in how the stories got written down. It is also one of the great narrative arcs of the Bible. And I think that's true because it was written down when it was still so vibrant in people's lives and memories. And I think it is true because the sensation of being displaced from life as we know it, or life as it should be, is quite common. And having the narrative of the exile helps us make sense of life as we know it. And now we're back to the beginning. I appreciate the way the stories of the exile make sense of life, but I'm rather tired of identifying with it. I would rather resonate with some stories of stability. But here we are. And in the midst of this is Jeremiah's profound, shocking, amazing, unexpected communication on behalf of God. He writes to those in exile, the ones who have been torn from their homes, the ones who are prevented from going home by exactly the people who tore up their home and tore them from their homes. And he says, on behalf of God, build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat what they produce. Take wives and have sons and daughters. Take wives for your sons, give your daughters in marriage, that they may bear sons and daughters. Multiply there and do not decrease. But seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for it is in its welfare that you will find your welfare. I can't imagine that this is what the exiles wanted to hear. I would imagine it was also the opposite of what they expected. Wouldn't they want to be ready to leave at any time? Why settle in? After all, the Passover itself celebrates God calling the people from Egypt so quickly that they had to cook unleavened bread, build houses and plant gardens. That just sounds wrong. Get married, have kids, keep on living, keep on trying to thrive and grow, but that doesn't fit either. They're in a temporary place. Shouldn't they wait till they get home and can be in the promised land and connect to life as they know it? Life as it's supposed to be. Why bring kids into the mess of the exile? I mean, does an exile marriage even count? And then God gets into it. This is one of the most shocking things attributed to God in the Bible, and that's saying a lot. God says, but seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for it is in its welfare that you will find your welfare. Seek the welfare of Babylon? Pray for Babylon? Work for the well-being of Babylon? Our well-being is correlated with the well-being of our oppressors? Aren't we supposed to undermine them? Aren't we supposed to destroy them? Aren't we trying to, I don't know, at the very least, just keep our heads down until we get to leave? We are working for their welfare? It might be helpful to know that I don't think the exiles were actually slaves, but nor were they free to leave. So this is how I think the exiles would have responded to Jeremiah's letter. Maybe I'm wrong, because while everything God says here is counterintuitive, everything God says also sounds like God, and they too knew God. So maybe they knew to expect the unexpected. To know compassion for others would come at the most annoying times. To experience God's reminders about loving everyone when they least wanted to hear it. Because I hear the echoes of this message from God when Jesus heals the senator's daughter, when Paul has compassion for his jailers, when MLK reminded his listeners that the goal was not to harm the oppressors, but to transform them so that they too could live a more wonderful life. This is a very, very godly message, but seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile. Pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. But I'm not sure when it gets easy. Because right now, this feels like a message to settle into this late pandemic reality, to let go of what was and build houses here, to plant gardens here, to savor relationships and build up families here and now, and seek the welfare of the city where we now are. But most of us still aren't all the way here yet. Maybe the young are. We're still remembering what was. Maybe even we're still letting God know that we're ready to bake the bread, even the unleavened bread, and walk away from this mess right now. We do not want to settle into this reality. We want to go home. We do not want to seek the welfare of this time because we want this time to be different than it is. But God meets us in the now, not in the past, not in the future, not even in the time we wish this was, in the now. That pre-exilic time never returned, but there was a vibrant post-exilic time, which included minor things like having the Bible written, the Second Temple being built, the walls of Jerusalem being restored, and a thing that is pretty relevant to us, the life of Jesus. It seems to me, from where I'm standing, that the temptation of the exile is the yearning to return to how things used to be. But God urges the people to be present in their now, which prepares them for the next things God is going to be up to with them. And I guess like the exiles, God is dragging us into the now, sometimes while we kick and scream like toddlers. And I think that's the word as I hear it today. God is with us in the now, calling us into the now and preparing us for the future. And this is where we meet God. May we be open to meeting God here. Amen.